Okay guys, here is part 2 of our Picot shell top. Thank you guys. Sorry, and again, I'm sorry for that odd break. If I didn't do that, it was gonna be like 2.5 hour long video. So here we go, we're gonna go straight into it. All right, I am back. I have all my ends weaved in. So what we're gonna do now is get our pieces laid out, our 2 pieces laid, and then we're gonna, what's the word I want to say? We're gonna mark the pieces together, flip it inside out, and by hand we're gonna sew up the sides. Anyway, we'll get to that. Okay, so first what I want you to do is take your back piece, your back panel, and you can remove your stitch markers that you had anywhere because it doesn't matter anymore, right? So what I want you to do is take your back panel and lay it down flat with the first row of shells, the double crochets facing you, okay? So lay it down with the first row of shells. Those double crochets of the shells are gonna face up. And I want you to take your front panel and lay that right on top with the same thing. The double crochet, the shells from the first row, those double crochets facing you. And what we're doing, what that does, I should say, is line up these armpits perfect. So you have shell, shell, and a little bit of a cockeyed shell, 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 and a little bit of a cockeyed shell. And that lines that up nice and pretty. So the same thing on this side. So we don't have a little cockeyed shell in the armpit, do we? We have just 2 full, nice, pretty shells. Same thing. We don't have one in the armpit area. We got those 2 nice, full, pretty shells. All right, so what I am going to do, and you don't have to use stitch markers for this. You can use, you know, scrap yarn, whatever you want to use. I have a bunch of these little cheap stitch markers. And everywhere that I am going to sew this together, so obviously we're not going to sew where our arm and our neck come out, right? I am just going to put a stitch marker. So basically I'm going to start right in that corner. Right where that sleeve starts. And now I'm just going to add one every so often, grabbing the front and the back panel and just marking them all the way. I don't know why that keeps coming in and out of focus, but that's annoying me. But anyway, just every so often, just add a stitch marker all the way down. So I'm just gonna come right here. The spacing doesn't matter. All this is doing is keeping my panels together so I don't get confused when I'm sewing it together, because we still got to flip it inside out. Come on now. Add another one right here. And then I'm just going to go straight to this bottom corner. And I'm just going to go right through both of those. Right there. So that's one whole side that I've got to sew up. And I'm just going to come to this side. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Line it up. Nice and pretty. I'm going to go straight for this corner first, just to mark it. And then just add another stitch marker. Or like I said, you can use scrap yarn, cut up some strands, and just tie it together. Doesn't have to be anything perfect because we're going to take it right back out as we sew. We're not, you know. All right, I'm going to go in this armpit area, that big gap from that chain right there. Go through both those, and then I'm going to go straight to that corner, straight to this corner where the sleeve starts. It's a bit of a pain to see right now, but we'll get it whenever we work the when we sew it together. All right, so there's that. Well, this side and this side. So I'm going to flip this over and let that slide down. All right, so now we got to get this this neck part right here, well, a shoulder part I should say. So mine, I have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets, and then the ones we skipped on the side. We're gonna mark those and then jump over here and line this up and mark these. Okay, so I'm just gonna start right in that corner. Let's see, I'm gonna go into the double crochets that end the row, right like that. And now I'm just gonna use each of the chain 2 spaces to line it up. That makes it easy. Probably more than necessary, but that's all right. All right, there's the last. And I'm gonna go ahead and put one in that single, in the single crochet. Let's see. Boom, boom, right there. And right there, which is a little hard to see, but that's where my slip stitch and all that is. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the same thing, just keep marking these chain 2 spaces, just because it makes it easy. Oh, I flung it. All right, that last chain 2. All right, now I'm gonna mark that double on each of them. Right there, and right, come on now. There. All right, so now I'm gonna come to this side and do the exact same thing we just did on that side. I'm not gonna make you watch me do that. I'm gonna do this off camera and I'll come back as soon as I get this neck and shoulder done. Be right back. All right, I'm back and I have that pinned all across the top. And of course, we wanna leave the neck open and our armholes. So now what we're gonna do is get our hands inside of here and flip it inside out. So just like that. So that way, when we start sewing this, what that's gonna do, well, we're gonna sew it, and then when we flip it back right side out, that seam is going to be on the inside of our top. So what you see right now is what's going to be on our body, or on your body, whatever. Right? Does that make sense? All right, so to sew this, I am going to basically, well, I'm going to get a needle first. I'm going to get a smaller size needle. Thread that into my, or thread my yarn on my needle. I'm gonna pull out a long strand, because we, you know, what we're gonna do is work this seam right here, right? So there's no way for us to jump to the next part we gotta sew, so we don't need a whole lot of yarn. So I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go like this. Ooh, about pulled that off. I'm gonna start here, go up here, 1, 2.5 times. Now that should be plenty. Actually, let's just go 3 times, 3 full times. If we got a little bit extra, that's perfectly fine. That's plenty to weave in. I'm gonna cut. All right, so this is the strand that I'm gonna use to sew my first side together. And I am basically, go ahead and remove this stitch marker. Put the 2 sides together, and I'm gonna pick a stitch and pick a stitch. I don't want to go too far into the layer, or it's gonna, first it's gonna shrink the top, but then it's gonna make it really obvious and leave a big bulky seam, and I don't want that at all. So I'm gonna pull that all the way. It's about So I have a little bit of an end left that I can weave in. Let's see. So you could come around and then just sew like that, or you can just go back and forth, back and forth. Now that does have a technical name, and of course I don't know. It was a, what is it, mattress stitch, and I don't remember what it is. But anyway, I prefer just going back and forth and just catching a little bit on each panel. And I don't want to go too far away from this first stitch, or that stitch right there. It's going to leave a big old hole right there. So I'm going to come right here. Let's see, I'm going to go there and there. Here and here. I'm going to work this up a bit, and then I'm going to show you a little sample of what it's going to look like when we turn this inside out, or right side out. Let's see. Ooh, I don't like that big gap right there. So I'm going to go right through the strand. Alright, so that is what we're going to go all the way up, and I'm going to show you real quick what it'll look like after we, well, obviously you're not going to have that top part right there. It'll be a little bit tighter, but it's a nice pretty seam. It doesn't leave a big bulky gap, or not a big bulky gap, but a big, you know, a big thick chunk right there. It's a nice flat seam. Tighten that up a bit. I mean, the only reason that you can see all that space is because it's not weaved in, finished yet. But all right, so I'm gonna work that all the way up this side, and I will come back once I get done with the rows of double crochet, because we're gonna be done right there, and then we're gonna transition to these chains. All right, so I am gonna sew up this side, and I'll meet you at, well, our armpit. I'll meet you at that armpit, okay? We're getting so close to be done. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm coming up to that armpit area, and I'm making sure the top of the double crochets are lined up on each side. Come back down. Now right now I'm just going through that, the actual post of that double. Alright, so now I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to start coming through the chains to this corner. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing the same thing I've been doing. Just catching a little strand here or there. Alright, so I'm going to take that stitch marker out. And now what I'm going to do is start going through this chain right here. I'm not going through any certain loops. I'm not going through the spaces. I'm actually going through the chain strands. Nice and pretty. Okay, so now I'm coming this way. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and take the stitch marker out, because I want to be able to make sure they stay nice and lined up. Which it's a bit of a bear to see because of where I weaved in my ends right there. But what I'm just going to do is keep these two knots from where I fastened off right on each other. I have had to stop and retwist my sewing yarn, and I think I'm about gonna need to do it again, but since I'm right here, I ain't gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna finish this. All right, now I'm gonna go right through those 2 knots. So that is the end of sewing that together. Well, I'm gonna actually bring it around and go another little space, and then go ahead and pull that and leave a loop, and then drop your needle inside that loop and pull, and then it'll knot off our work. And then all I'm going to do is weave this through the legs of the double crochet from this shell. This doesn't have to be perfect, you guys. It doesn't matter how you do it. And then cut. All right, now I'm going to come down here. I'm going to take this tail, and now what I'm going to do is holding this like this, so you can see my tail is coming from right here. I'm going to bring it around and go into a corner, and then into a corner on this side. See that little loop it left? Drop my needle through that loop, pull it tight. So what that did is just knotted that off. And now I'm going to weave this through the legs of a few doubles. Just like that. And there we go. So now I want to show you guys what this looks like. How pretty that seam is. Isn't that nice? That does not look at all, what's the word I want to say, bulky or thick. It's nice and flat. Can you see? And here it is on the inside. So the seam's right here. Can you see right there? See how it's not bulky? Same on this side. Yay! Okay, flip it back. Alright, so now I want you guys to do the exact same thing we just did on this side. So once again, I'm going to bring my working yarn here to the top. So I'm bunched up to show you what I'm doing. Am I on? Yeah, right there. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and cut. And then that's the strand I'm going to use to sew this together. All right. So I'm going to take this stitch marker out, line that up nice and neat, go right into that first corner, I think that's a good amount, a good length, and just start sewing it together. Come on. Alright, so I'm going to leave this to you guys, this whole side. And I will get mine done, and when we come back, we are going to work on sewing the top of the shoulder and down the arm on these two. All right, so go ahead and get this side sewn up, and I'll be right back. All right, so I am back, and we have this side sewn up and this side all the way to the sleeve sewn up. So now we just have these two, this top and this top. So I am going to get a slip knot on my hook, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Oh no, I don't know if I can reach my crochet hook. Dang it, just a second. Alright, so to sew up this first shoulder, we're going to do the exact same thing we did on our sides. I'm going to take a strand, go to the beginning to the end, 1, beginning to the end, 2, beginning to the end, 3, and a little more just to be safe, and then find my scissors. Cut. Alright, now I'm just going to keep with the same stitch that I was sewing this shut with, the side with, but I'm going to start with this very first double. Now I want to go into, okay, what we're going to do, so in this first double, we're going to catch the loop that is closest to us on the front panel. The back panel, we're going to catch the loop that's the farthest away from us and pull that through. Now the reason we're doing that is because it's going to leave the remaining loops that we don't work into. It's going to leave a seam across the top of our shoulder. Alright, so I'm going to catch farthest loop, closest loop, and back this way. So the back part, or it's not necessarily the back part, it's just, you know, the panel that's the furthest away from you, catch the back loop, and the panel that's in front of you, catch the loop that's closest to you. It doesn't matter which one you're working into. It doesn't matter if, you know, this is the back panel or the front panel. It doesn't matter. Alright, so I'm going to move my stitch marker. And what's really nice about this is that, oh, I already went into the chain. Oops. We can use, because it's stitch for stitch across the top, right? We can use these chain 2 spaces as our little guide to keep us in line so we don't lose, you know, we don't skip stitches, which it's not a big deal if you do. Closest loop, farthest loop, farthest loop, closest loop, closest, farthest. Here's our chain 2, farthest, closest, closest loop, farthest, alright, so I'm just going to work this straight across this seam, the little arm and the shoulder, and once I get to that single crochet that, remember when at the top of this you just work that depending on your size, like I think on mine, if I remember right, it was like 4 or 5, I don't remember, but that single crochet, I'm just going to work straight into that, straight into the next double. I'm not going to do anything different. So, you know, right here, so I worked so many of those shells, and then we stopped and fastened off, or well, singled into the very next double, and then chain 1 and fasten off, and then we're done with that side. I'm going to go straight into that and then straight into the next stitch. Just jump straight across, and I will meet you when I get to this very last double crochet. I think that's what it is, yeah. So I'm just gonna keep, well, let's stop for a second and look how that seam looks. There. So it just leaves a real thin, not too thick seam right across the top. All right, so I am going to go ahead and work this across, and I will meet you at the very last double crochet. All right, so I have come to the last chain 2 space, so I thought I'd just go ahead and come back and work this with you guys. So we have the furthest and the closest. So now I should have 3 double crochet left. The last 2 of the last shell, I'm just taking that stitch marker out, and the double crochet that ends this little area. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, closest loop, farthest loop, farthest loop, closest loop, and the last one, just a little turned a little bit, and the farthest loop, just like that. So now I'm going to come around, and I'm going to go right back into the same space that I just worked into. I'm going to pull this through, but I'm not going to pull that loop all the way. I want that, there we go. I want that loop left. I'm going to take my needle through that loop and pull that. And that's going to knot that off right there. And then I'm just going to weave in. Let's see, where can I go? How about, I'm just going to go straight through here, and I'm going to come to the closest little shell so I can run it through the legs of the double crochets. Right there. And cut. Alright, there's that side. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this side. I'm going to get this strand on in my needle. Alright, so where did I start? Right there. So I'm going to bring it around. Pull that little tail out first. Pull that loop back out. Put the needle right through that loop. Stop. Pull that. Now I'm going to weave this. I'm going to bring it this way. I'm going to bring it to the legs of some double crochets so I can weave it back and forth through the legs. See how it bunched right there? I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to pull it back out a little. Back. I'm going to go one more time. Alright, just like that. Cut. So that side is done. Right there is where we stop working those doubles. So once we flip it, that's going to be the shoulder. That's where your shoulder is going to sit, right there. Alright, now on this side, same concept, going to be a little bit different because we slip stitched across to get to where we needed to start. So what I want you guys to do is work the same thing we just did from the neck, from the inside of the neck all the way to where we started to slip stitch, okay? Once we get to where we started to, remember when we worked the shell back and forth and we got to right here and then we slip stitched over so many shells to where we could get to where we needed to start the shoulder part. Church, come on. Get. We're going to slip stitch across those shells and the doubles and the chains, and then I will, not slip stitch, I'm sorry, we're going to sew it together like we just did on the other one, and then when we get to those slip stitches, I'm going to come back and show you guys how we're going to work that. So I'm just going to sew this up like we just did and stop when we get to the slip stitch portion. So I'll be right back. Alright, so I have worked that across, and I just did the 2 chain 2s, the next 2 double, and then here's the single right there and right there, and then there you can see the slip stitch and chain 1 that I fastened off. Alright, so I'm coming from this side, so I'm going to get the farthest loop and the closest loop. Okay, so now we are to these slip stitches. So if you separate your panels, you can see there's the front of my doubles, this is the slip stitch, and then if you rotate that, right there is the actual top of the double crochet. So what you see that's the furthest away from you, you got to rotate it a bit and then you'll see it. We're not going to work into that. We are going to work into what you see at the top. I said that wrong. What you see right here, this is actually the top of the double crochets. That's the slip stitch. These are the slip stitches. And same thing on this side. So the double crochets are facing me. Right here's the top of the doubles. Rotate. And right there is the slip stitches. So lay that together. And they're kind of actually a lot more prominent than, you know, just the double crochets. And we're just going to keep doing that same thing. Closest loop, farthest loop. Closest, farthest. I said that backwards. Farthest, closest. Alright. So I'm just going to let you guys keep going. And I'm going to work that all the way down to that last stitch, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have made it across, and I'm in the last section right here. Now this part's going to be a bit of a bear just because this is where we've fastened off and weaved in those ends. So I am actually just going to go where I can see. And then be happy with it because it's a little hard to see. So again, I'm going to bring it right back around, back through everything, through the loop that I'm going to leave, and pull it, and then weave in this end just like we did on the other side, and then repeat with that tail that we have from the beginning where we started, and we are done sewing it together. So now all we're going to do is add a little edge around the neck and the sleeve, and we're done. So I sewed that in. Alright, so I'm going to get this side done, this little, where we started, where'd it go? Oh, this little tail, I'm going to get that sewn in just like we did on the other shoulder, and then when I come back we're going to start the border. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have gotten those two shoulder and arm seams sewn together, and I have my top flipped right side out. Is this not so cute? Okay, so now we're going to put a little border around the neck and around both of these sleeves. Alright, so with the front of your neck away from you, so the back is facing us, we're going to get a slip knot on our hook. Make sure you got enough tail to weave in, and I am going to bring you guys in just a bit. So I'm going to pause this and do this off camera. Alright, so with the back of our top facing us, this is my right hand side. If you look on the back of the neck, see this shell right here that we work that double into? We're going to attach into that chain space. The chain 2. We're going to attach into there with a slip stitch. Chain 1, and we're going to work our shell in there. So I just scooched everything over. So you can work over your tail if you want to. If I could get a hold of it. Alright, so we're going to work 2 doubles. Chain 2, go right back in there with 2 doubles. And then we're going to jump to this next chain 2 space and work this. Oh, I'm sorry. I messed that up. We are not working that shell. We're working a Picot shell. It's one of those days today. Okay, so again, we're going to work a double, chain 4. We're going to come down and slip stitch into the 3rd chain from our hook. Chain 1, don't forget that little chain 1 right there. And we're going to go back into that same chain 2 space with 2 doubles. One and 2. Now we jump to that next chain space. Bump the camera, sorry. I hate it when I do that because I'm afraid you guys are like to you guys it's like an earthquake hit. All right, so now we work our Picot shell again. 1, 2, chain 4, come down to that 3rd chain and slip stitch. Don't forget your chain 1, and then go back in there with 2 double. All right, so we're going to repeat that for each of the chain 2s across our back, and I'm going to come back when we get to this last one right here, the same one that we worked that double into. I'll come back when I get right there. So I'm going to get my Picot shells done across my back, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have repeated that across, and now get my yarn back in order here. If you look, here is the shell that we worked that double crochet into for the shoulder, and we're going to go ahead and go right into that same chain 2 and work our Picot shell. One, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the 3rd. Don't forget that little chain 1. Go back in there with 2 double. Alright, so now we are going to start working over the shoulder piece. And if you look, you can see here's a shell, here's a shell, here's a shell. What we're going to do is we're going to skip this first, so we worked into this row, right? So we're going to skip this row and go into the side of this double crochet right here with our Picot shell. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the 3rd. Don't forget that little chain 1. And then go back in there with our 2 doubles. Alright, so I have got to get this adjusted a little bit. Bump the camera. Alright. Alright, so here's a row and here's a row. So we're going to skip this row and come right to this, and we're going to double crochet into, just go straight into the post of this double wherever you want to. I'm just going to poke my, nope, it's not what I want to happen. I'm going to poke my hook right through it, just like that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the 3rd. Don't forget the chain 1 and 2 double. 2. All right, so we worked into this one. Now we're going to skip this next, and now we're upside down. So if you can see the legs of your double into that chain 2, that's the next one that we skip, and then we're going to come to the next legs of the double, and we're going to work into the side. Just go straight through that double crochet. I want to get more than just one strand. There we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch, chain 1, right back in there, 1, excuse me, 2 double. Okay, so I'm going to turn it this way so you guys can see. We worked into this row, see the shell right here, and then there's that double. We're going to skip this one, and now we're going to go into the next one. So follow that shell over, right there's the post. We're going to go right into there. I don't want to work on just one strand, so, or one there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, rotate, slip stitch into the third. Don't forget that chain 1, and go back in there, 2 doubles. All right. Okay, so here's the row we worked into, here's the row we're going to skip, here's the row we're going to work into. So I'm going to grab that, I'm going to go right through there, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch, chain 1, I don't see, there we go. I don't know why that looks so weird to me. Okay, so we have this one we worked into, skipping this one, and we're going to go into this one. So actually we're working into the double crochet that starts the part that sits on our chest right here. So I'm going to go straight through that double. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into that third chain. Nope, that's not right. There we go. Don't forget your chain 1, back in there with 2 double. I split that really bad. Start that over. There we go. All right, so now for the front, we are not going to work into the, let me get this set up for you guys. I'm backed out so you guys can see what I'm doing here. All right, so for the front, we are not going to work into the connecting one right there. We're just going to jump straight to that next chain 2. So on the back, that's where we started, but on the front, we're going to skip it, okay? So all we're going to do now is jump straight to that first shell right there, and we're going to work the Picot shell. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the third, chain 1, 2 double. Just like that. And now we're going to work that across this chain 2, and I'll meet you. I know that's hard to see. Let me grab my notepad here. So we're going to work across the full shells of our front. So I will meet you once I get this shell done, okay? The Picot shell done. I'll be right back. Alright, so I have worked that across, and I have my notepad in here so I can show you guys exactly what we're doing. So if you remember, we just worked into this double crochet, not into the space like we did on the back. So once we come all the way across, we're not going to go into that chain 2, we're going to go straight through the post of this double crochet. So I'm going to rotate and go straight through there. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch. Don't forget your chain 1. There we go. Okay, so now we worked into the end of this row, so we skip this row and go to this row. So we skip and go right into this one. Oh, with a double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip. Chain 1. If you guys can hear that clicking, that is my air conditioner when it kicks on. I have no idea why it does that. It's weird. But anyway, alright. So hold this like this so you can see we worked into the end of this row. We're going to skip this row. We're skipping this row, and we're going to come right into the end of this row. So I'm going to go right. I don't want to work with just one strand. I want to, there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip. Don't forget your chain 1. You guys are going to have dreams about me saying, don't forget that chain 1. Alright. So I'm going to move my notepad. Get this laid out. Alright, so we worked into the side of this. We're going to skip this and come to the next. Get some slack. Uh-oh, no, I already worked 2 double. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip. Chain 1, don't forget it. And 2. Alright, so we worked into this one. We're going to skip this one, and now we're into this, the shells that are upside down. Can you see it? Here's the shell that's upside down. We're going to go right into the stitch at the end. Just shove your hook right through there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi, Churchy. Slip. Don't forget the chain 1. Back in there. 1 and 2. All right. We're almost to the beginning. All right, so we worked into this one. We're going to skip this one and come right into this post. Right through the double and 1. 2, chain 1, 2, 3, 4, slip, chain 1, go back in there. 1, 2, and we're going to slip stitch to our very first double crochet, just like that. Chain 1, pull up a loop, and we're done with the neck. I'm so excited, we're almost done. Okay. Oh, I love that. It looks so cool. It's so hard for you guys to see it with the, you know, the neck and the back. But isn't that awesome? Yay! I'm happy. Happy, happy, happy. Alright, so now we are going to start the same process that we did around the sleeve. So I just grabbed one of my sleeves. I have no idea which one I have. And I'm going to start at that armpit seam. So I'm going to get a Churchy. Nope, 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 nope. Please stop. Nope. Get a strand. Get a slip knot on my hook. Alright, so let's see what we have here. See, here was a row of shell. So then right here is the end double or chain. I don't remember what that is. I'm going to go straight through that. So follow your double. Like, well, here's your seam. Right on top of that seam. Right there. I'm going to go right into that side. Nope, I don't want to go through the space. I want to go through the post. There, just like that. Slip stitch, chain one, pull that tight, and then I'm going to go right back in there with that Picot shell. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip. Don't forget your chain one. Go back in there with 2 double. Come on. There. Alright. So now we're going to skip the next, find that next shell, and we're going to go right into that one. Let's see. Right through there. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, slip, chain one, go right back in there. All right. So I'm going to look. I'm into this one, so I'm going to skip this one and go into the next. What am I doing? I was just gonna keep just trucking along. 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch. Don't forget that chain one. It's getting to the point where I just like saying it now. I don't think you guys are gonna forget it. Churchy hair. All right, so I'm gonna rotate my work. So I'm into this one, skip this one, and now I'm into this side. One, 2, 3, 4, slip. Don't forget your chain one. 1 and 2. I want to stay with you guys until, well, I mean, I think you guys can get this. And if you guys haven't noticed, there's actually kind of a sequence. Well, no, what do I want to say? What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Anyway, so if you look on this side that I'm on, yours could be different right now. But we're working into each of the thick ends. So what that is the chain one double crochet. And then we ended this row with just a double. Well, here's the chain one double crochet. So on this side of our sleeve, we're working into the thick part. So we skip the little into the thick, skip the little, and now we're gonna jump right up, well, where was I at? Yeah, we're skipping, And now we're going to work into the thin. Once you get past that seam, it changes and you're doing the opposite. So I'm into the thin, skip the thick, into the thin, you just rotate it, skip the thick, into the thin, and then just repeat that around. So I think you guys can get this. So if you need any help, email me and I will be more than happy. I don't know what that is all over my, I need to get a new piece of this vinyl. Anyway, email me if you guys need any help with these sleeves. But I mean, you're doing the same thing we did around the neck. So I think you guys can do this, okay? So I am gonna stop here and I am going to finish this sleeve, which all you're gonna do is make it around, slip stitch to the first double crochet, chain one, cut, pull it out, weave in your ends. Repeat the exact same thing for the other sleeve, okay? So I'm fully confident you guys can handle that. So I am gonna let you get that done and I will come back with both of my sleeves done. I'm gonna weave in my ends and we are gonna finish this video. We are going to be done. I'm so excited. I've been working on this tutorial for like a week. All right, guys, I am going to stop here and I'll be right back. Give yourself a round of applause. I'm so happy this is done. I love this set. I wish you guys could see the collar a little bit better. Well, you probably see them. I have pictures at the beginning of the video so you guys can see them, but I'm so excited. I'm so happy. It matches perfectly. Yay. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys made this, please share it with me. I would love to see this. All of my info's in the description box, links to all of that. Subscribe if you haven't so you guys don't miss what I've got coming next. And check out my other stuff in the description box. Leave me a comment, let me know. How did I do? Did you guys like this? I will have to say, hindsight, I wish I would not have used the variegated. I think I would have liked the darker better. I don't know. There's 1,000 different ways you could have put this together, but I'm still happy with it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hug every one of you if I could. And subscribe, hit that thumbs up, comment, check out my description box, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.